Well, Margaret, in looking at Wednesday's executive order on illegal immigration, are they in line, are these executive orders in line with what's been said publicly?
Well, they're certainly in line with what then candidate Trump promised on the campaign trail in terms of building a physical barrier on the southern border of the United States and staffing it up with additional agents. He's today asking for 5,000 more agents in addition to the 17,000 who are already there. But what's not certain here, Elaine, is that Congress is going to fully fund or agree to do all of these things laid out in this order. Remember, there's no cost estimate in this proposal that was put forward by the White House. Speaker Ryan has said publicly that U.S. taxpayers will have to foot the bill at first, though Donald Trump is promising he's going to somehow get Mexico to reimburse American taxpayers. So there's a lot of detail here that's not in the order. So when we actually see construction and when we actually see how it's paid for, we'll be able to see if Donald Trump truly delivered on that campaign pledge.
Well, Margaret, at that speech at the Department of Homeland Security Wednesday, President Trump said, "I think our relationship with Mexico is going to get better." Following the executive order issued, there are reports that Mexico's president is considering canceling his scheduled visit to Washington. How are these latest steps being received within the security community? Do we have a sense?
Well, the Mexican president is supposed to be here in Washington next week. He was invited by the White House. Today, Mexican officials, the foreign minister, the economy minister, were right here at the White House meeting the administration for the first time when they were greeted with this news that President Trump has also ordered a review of all American assistance and aid to their country. So that's what caused a bit of a sharp reaction here, this idea that the entire relationship is being questioned here. Keep in mind, Mexico's our third largest trading partner. So it's not just a question of who crosses the border, it's a question of which goods. Mexico and the Mexican economy is very much interlinked with ours. When it comes to the national security community, there's the idea within this that they'd get more resources and more agents is something that many have spoken to are happy with. But as to how this actually gets implemented, it's far more complicated than how it sounds on paper.
Well, Margaret, as we heard in your piece, President Trump told ABC News that construction of the border wall will apparently begin in quote unquote months. How might Congress potentially complicate the funding timeline? You touched on it earlier.
Right. Well, Congress has to first see a cost estimate and agree to put that money forth. The White House seems to think that there are funds that they could get a hold of, but that hasn't been detailed out. I know Speaker Ryan, the Republican leader of the House, has said he supports it here, but American taxpayers are going to fit the bill. What is assumed here is that by the Trump administration is that over the course of negotiations with the Mexican government in regard to trade policy. They're part of the North American Free Trade Deal. As I said, Mexico's a huge trading partner, third biggest with the United States, second largest buyer of American goods. So the idea is somehow within that they'll make up for the cost of the wall itself that U.S. taxpayers put forward. So as to exactly what Congress is being asked to put up front and what they are going to be promised to get back, we still do not know. And we know these talks are still in the initial stages with the Mexican government. And remember, it's not just American politics at play here, it's Mexican politics. And the Mexican president has gotten a very harsh reaction from his people to this kind of language and these kind of pledges to turn people away. Because keep in mind also, Elaine, it's important to point out a lot of the migrants who are crossing the border are not Mexican. They're coming from elsewhere in Central America. And Donald Trump today is also talking about building detention centers on the border and forcing some of those other migrants back to their countries or perhaps back into the hand of Mexican authorities. So it's an ask of the Mexican government, and they have to agree to a lot of this.
All right. Margaret Brennan at the White House for us. Margaret, thanks so much.